The average investor meeting lasts 3 minutes. Melanie Perkins sat through over 100 of them. Every single one said no. No money, no technical skills, no Silicon Valley network. She was pitching from Perth, Australia, a city so geographically isolated it's closer to Singapore than it is to Sydney. She had an 80-page hand-drawn product spec and a vision to replace Adobe. Nobody believed her. Then one person did. And everything that followed is a masterclass in what actually separates founders who build something real from the ones who quit when it gets hard. Today, Canva has 230 million monthly users and a $25 billion valuation. Melanie is still the CEO. This is how she got there and what it teaches about building a business when the odds are completely against you. Most people with a big idea try to execute the big idea on day one. That's the fastest way to run out of money, patience, and people willing to back you. Melanie Perkins was 19 and teaching design software to university students in Perth when she had the idea. Students were paying hundreds of dollars for tools that took an entire semester to learn. She saw the gap. Design needed to be simple, collaborative, and accessible to everyone. Her vision wasn't modest. She wanted to replace Adobe and Microsoft. She wanted to build the design tool for the entire world. She did not start there. Instead, she and her boyfriend Cliff Albrecht built Fusion Books, an online yearbook design tool for high schools. Low stakes, narrow market, manageable. They borrowed $50,000 from friends and family and got a government grant of $5,000. They ran it out of her mother's living room. Cliff was the business side. Melanie was the product vision. Between them, they had no technical ability to build what they actually wanted. None of that stopped them. Fusion Books worked. It wasn't glamorous, but it proved that non-designers could use a simplified design tool to create professional output. That proof, built on a tiny idea in a tiny market, became the foundation for everything. The rule isn't start small because you're scared. The rule is this: the smaller version of your idea, executed well, is worth more than the full version of your idea executed badly. Fusion Books gave Melanie two things no pitch deck can buy: a working product and real evidence that people would use it. She didn't start with Canva. She started with yearbooks. And that's exactly why Canva exists. Here's the problem nobody talks about honestly. If you don't have connections, the traditional pitch process is designed to keep you out. Cold emails go unanswered. Warm introductions require being warm. If you're unknown from nowhere with no track record, the game is rigged before you start. Melanie Perkins didn't pretend otherwise. She found a different door. Bill Tai was a Silicon Valley venture capitalist who held annual kitesurfing retreats in Maui for founders and investors. Melanie got wind of it. She had never kitesurfed in her life. She got in touch with Tai anyway, pitched him on Canva, and when he invited her to the retreats, she showed up. Then she got on a board and learned to kitesurf. Not because she wanted to kitesurf, because the people she needed to meet were in that water. She wiped out repeatedly. She showed up anyway. Over multiple retreats, she built real relationships, not transactional ones. When Tai eventually agreed to support Canva, he introduced her to Lars Rasmussen, co-founder of Google Maps. Rasmussen became a tech advisor. Through him, she eventually found Cameron Adams, a former Google designer who became Canva's third co-founder. The lesson here is brutal but simple. Nobody is going to hand you access. You have to engineer it. That doesn't mean being fake or manipulative. It means figuring out where the people you need actually spend their time and showing up there for real. Melanie didn't pretend to love kitesurfing. She learned it because it was the price of the room. Over 100 investors said no from behind their desks. The yes came from a man she met in the ocean. Most founders compromise on co-founders because they're in a hurry. They pick whoever is close, whoever is available, whoever seems capable enough. That decision ends more startups than bad products do. Lars Rasmussen agreed to advise Canva and help find its technical co-founder. For a full year, Melanie brought him names: engineers, LinkedIn profiles, physical introductions. One by one, Rasmussen said no. Every time. Most founders would have pushed back, taken whoever Rasmussen almost approved. Moved forward anyway because the waiting was killing momentum. Melanie waited. In 2012, Rasmussen introduced her to Cameron Adams, a former Google designer who had already built and sold his own startup in Sydney. Adams immediately understood the vision. Within weeks, he was in. He became co-founder and chief product officer. responsible for the technical architecture that would eventually support hundreds of millions of users. 2 years from idea to launch are what Melanie calls the least fun period of building Canva. No product, no users, no public progress. Just laying infrastructure nobody could see yet. And that infrastructure is exactly why Canva could scale the way it did. The simultaneous collaboration, the real-time editing, the ability to add video, documents, and presentations years later without rebuilding from scratch. None of that happens if she'd rushed and hired whoever was available in 2011. The business rule is this: the cost of waiting for the right person is always lower than the cost of moving forward with the wrong one. A bad technical co-founder doesn't just slow you down, they make everything you build fragile. A year of rejection, a year of waiting. Then the right person walked in, and everything that followed was built on that foundation. Canva launched publicly in 2013. By that point, Melanie had spent 5 years building toward this moment. The product was real. The infrastructure was solid. Investors were on board. Everything was ready. Then a journalist broke the embargo and published a negative review before launch day. The review didn't just critique the product. It framed Canva as overhyped before most people had even heard of it. For a first-time founder who had spent half a decade getting to that single day, it was devastating. Melanie has said it shattered her, but she kept going. Within a year, Canva had hit 1 million users. Within 2, 6 million. The negative review didn't define the product. The product defined itself in the hands of people who used it and told others. This is the part of business building that almost nobody is honest about. The launch almost never goes as planned. Something breaks. Someone misrepresents what you built. The timing is wrong. The first wave of press is indifferent or hostile. That moment separates the founders who make it from the ones who don't. Not because of talent or money, but because of what they decide to do in the 48 hours after things go wrong. Melanie's response to the bad review was not to fight it, issue a rebuttal, or spiral. She focused entirely on getting the product into more hands. Let the product answer the criticism. It did. One bad review. 1 million users 12 months later. The market always votes louder than one journalist. Here's where Canva's story gets interesting from a pure business standpoint, because most design tools are built for designers. Canva was never built for designers. It was built for everyone who isn't one. That distinction sounds simple. It changes everything about how you build. If this one hit different from the usual startup content, hit like, it helps more people find this channel. Subscribe if you want more videos that skip the inspiration porn and get to what actually works. And if you know a founder who's in the middle of a hard stretch right now, send them this.